You can make a book on that.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Board of Selectmen meeting August 4th, 2016. Mr. Kirk, would you lead us in the, oh, do we have our pledge of flags? Yes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we have a short list of items tonight, although one we will spend some good time on. First is procedural items, 6:30, scheduled joint meeting to fill vacancy on Park and Rec Commission. Second one, state primary election warrant for Thursday, September 8th, 2016. And then our second agenda item will be the preliminary goal setting for Board of Selectmen for FY 2017. So let's take care of our procedural items first. Mr. Bergen?
Yes, procedurally, we have, the town clerk has received the resignation from Fred Freund from his elected position on the Park and Recreation Commission. And we have also now received a notice from the remaining members of the Park and Rec Commission informing us of that vacancy. And that notice, together, the resignation and the notice, if received, when received by the selectmen, would entitle those Park and Rec commissioners to participate with the Board of Selectmen in filling the vacancy. And it gets filled through the next annual town election, so it's just through May of 2017. Under the board's own procedures and policies, we advertise and allow for a 1-month period for people to apply. They need to be registered voters and with the intent to run for the seat when it is on the ballot next May. So you have the forms in proper order. I would just note that in the draft motion, I misspelled Fred's last name. We've already noted that was a Freudian slip, but we will add an N to the official record.
Ready for a motion?
Indeed.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 11, to receive a notice thereunder, given the remaining members of the Park and Rec Commission of the vacancy on said board created by the resignation of Fred Freund, effective August 1st, 2016, and further to give notice that to said remaining members, the Board of Selectmen shall convene a joint meeting with the intent to fill the vacancy through May 2017 annual town election by joint appointment to be made Monday, September 12, 2016 at 7:15 p.m. And further to invite qualified registered voters of the town of Littleton to apply for said appointment and to be interviewed by said joint meeting.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Very good. One down. Second one up.
Next is from the town clerk. There is a state primary election scheduled for Thursday, September 8th. Had to check that myself because Thursday is not a Tuesday, but I guess because Tuesday is the day after Labor Day, or for whatever reason it was moved. And so the Board of Selectmen typically issues an election warrant for the state election. So the clerk has asked us to approve that tonight.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote to execute the warrant for the state primary election to be held on Thursday, September 8, 2016, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, and to direct the constable post said warrant forthwith.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right.
And there's a letter to the Park and Rec to be signed by the chair, and then there's the election warrant to be signed by all members. Thank you.
All right, goal setting. So Keith, I know you said to bring our packets from last time, but we actually have it.
Yeah, actually, I updated the matrix to include the gold proposal from, that I've received from Jim. And so those that I have received are in the matrix, and I've got those displayed on up on the big tote board. The format is first to show you what your goals were for last year, for fiscal 2016. Then to the far right are where I've received suggestions from members, and then a combination of looking at what your goals were last year and what suggestions are for changes this year. In the column second to the left, it's a first stab at what your goals might be for this year. And so this matrix at least proposes that you continue with the 9 goals that you had last year, and then add a 10th goal of town facilities, since there seemed to be an awful lot of activity dealing with town facilities this year. But I'd suggest that the goal ultimately is to come up with a preliminary list of goals to then be the subject of a public hearing. It's typically a 2-step process. So if you adopted a preliminary set tonight, you could have a public hearing on it at your next regular meeting on August 22nd, so that the public would have an opportunity for input.
If I might, Madam Chair, just on that, and I don't disagree with anything Keith said, including adding the town facilities one, it seems like the matrix becoming more of a place to structurally put the goals, and those are kind of more topic areas than they are goals themselves now. For instance, the open space, the bullet point that I had suggested, it doesn't exactly fit under the master plan, but I obviously see the correlation.
Yeah, that's where you had it last year, so
Yeah.
it didn't reorganize the matrix too much.
But it has a
Yeah.
life outside of the master plan process, too. We've had a conversation with the Open Space Committee about, that whole topic of prioritization. And prioritization may or may not come up in the master plan
Yeah.
document. So, I don't know whether it comes into retitling that master plan /
Yeah, I think that would do it, because even last year, the master plan update also included green communities,
Right.
an open space plan. and
So it ought to be
other things, so we
like,
could-
planning issues, master
Yeah.
plan and general,
Yeah, and
land
other
planning
planning,
issues or something
yeah.
like that.
Good sense, yeah.
So I think what I may do,
That's just a headline change? Is that right?
Yeah.
Right next to number 1.
Good idea, Paul. We just broke the machines.
Oh, that became my fault?
so I'll just show you the other, and this is for those wondering at home, how is it that as soon as the meeting is over, there's a list of what just happened, and it's because we go into the meeting with a list of what was about to happen, and I then write it in the past tense. So I will edit, let me try to figure out this.
What is it going to be, master plan and general plan?
Yeah, let me just make the edits as we go.
Keith, I sent you the wrong one.
So it could be master plan update and other,
Land use topic or something like
master plan update and other. Well, we could just list the others, we could list housing, open space, green communities. Master plan update, and then housing, open space, green communities implementation.
So along that line, Paul, I think you know, under the way the matrix reads, under economic development marketing plan, we have common sewer study and the sewer feasibility study and all that. I think that should be a separate goal and have it. I mean, in my opinion, it is part of economic development, but it's such a big, to do with the common. I think, if we have you can't call it feasibility, how about, sewer? Because the feasibility study is done.
The only reason you might, I mean, it was the Economic Development Committee that gave us that proposed goal, so maybe what you'd want to do is economic development, including Littleton Common sewer exploration.
What do we want to call that, though? What is our next step now that the feasibility is done? You know, and why I say it's separate, because, you know, in discussions we've had about that, we've talked about getting the Board of Health involved. We've talked about talking to the business community, and those are kind of specific things we need to do for that next phase. And I just don't want to see it lost in the economic
Develop
development.
a possible implementation plan, or,
Initiate,
yeah, initiate.
and support.
How about a Littleton Commons sewer strategic plan?
I like it.
Sure.
And that way there, it can be its own topic.
Yeah.
And part of the strategic plan is some of the comments that you wrote down, both Joe and Paul, and let's get the input from the feasibility study and infuse what their findings are right into the strategic plan, and then we can start meeting on it and getting businesses involved.
Well, you know, what's interesting about that is that in the master plan process, I just got some information today about the charrette that they're proposing, which is to focus on Littleton Common, although I think that might not be as expansive. I think they might just be looking, does anyone know, are they looking at the common area, or are they looking at?
I think it's the common
broadly the
area.
common? Okay, all right, yeah, so, that there's like 2 days of intensive planning that are proposed for September, that the Master Plan Update Committee is focusing on Littleton Common, so.
Yes. So I think if we can kind of agree on the goal itself, but keep this goal open until we talk to the feasibility folks, get them back in, and let's see what comes out of these intensive meetings for the Master Plan Update Steering Committee.
Yep.
And
So do you want it as a standalone goal with its own number?
I would like to see it. I don't know what the rest of the board would like to.
Certainly, I mean, it's certainly,
I prefer to separate it from economic development, although I think
part of it.
economic development will be a benefit if the common were to be sewered.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the sole driving force of it.
Right.
I think
That's
there's-
true.
There's
Right.
a lot of environmental impact.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons well beyond economic development
Yeah.
for us moving forward with sewer in the common. So I agree with Jim. I think it should be a separate goal.
Anybody want water?
do you want to use do you want to use as one of the bullets, the language that the Economic Development Committee proposed, which is conduct detailed assessment of financial implications of investing or failing to invest in the sewer? That's what they brought
That'll help
to you.
build the case, that might be one thing. But,
But beyond that, it's develop,
I think we also need, yeah, well, I agree with adding that, Keith, and their language is fine, but I think, following up on what Chuck just said too, a step we need to make in addition to getting, the past committee, folks back in there and revisit where we were in terms of business, community engagement, and, kind of fleshing out the finances of it, is revisiting the environmental aspect of it. I mean, there were reports a long time ago. I mean, the people who, like Savas, he'll come out of retirement, I think, to come give a speech again. But anyway, the Water Department and the Board of Health both took stands in favor of that 10 years ago
Yeah.
or more. And, maybe they've changed their opinion, but if they haven't, we at least should be touching base with them on the environmental need.
totally agree. But the opinion got worse.
Right.
So am I hearing, is it a Littleton Common strategic plan, or is it a Littleton Common sewer strategic?
Sewer.
So,
Yeah, I think it's separate, although I.
Yeah, because what the
very
master
much-
plan is doing, may or.
There's a lot
you
of
know,
cross-
I don't know if they're,
I mean, I just noticed too that, Keith, you were suggesting that we should add facilities, which is fine.
Yeah.
But one of the main facility objectives could well be a senior center, and that's already there under Elder and Human Services too, so,
right,
you know.
yeah, we could,
Cross-pollination.
Right.
So on number one, Paul, your second bullet, process for prioritizing things and, open space is one, capital projects is another, even roads is also another, but just having a way to prioritize stuff is something, I would love us to have a recipe for that.
I agree. I mean, my point here was specific to the open space plan because we were updating it at the time I wrote this, and that seems to be a chronic issue. Once upon a time, we actually had that in place, and then we've executed it, we've kind of got away from it, so I think we need to get back to doing that. But I agree, I think we should be doing that with everything. I mean, we get that, we had it in full force last Monday night with
Exactly.
all those projects. They all sound good, in a vacuum, but they're not in a vacuum, so.
Right.
Right. And inevitably, it'll be dumped on our table to sort it out. so.
Exactly. So can we come up with like a repeatable process?
That's great, I think we should, yeah. Unless we can figure out someone else to, be the bad guy, then,
So create a process or methodology to prioritize
capital project.
capital projects, yeah.
I think part of that has already been done based on what we saw the other night, with the chart. There's a step in the right direction.
Oh, sure.
Showing the data at
The
least.
impact, yep.
So, and
Yep.
the impact, right, so
Yep.
that can help us.
We're good on it in some places, like, for instance, the equipment replacement stuff. I think we got a pretty good handle on that across the departments, where from year to year, we have an idea, and in the budget process, we, ask people to kind of sort out their priorities, and it seems to work, It's the bigger projects that we,
That compete against each other at
Right.
the same time, so, yeah. Things like, is there a legal concern? Is there a health or safety concern? Like those type of things, right
Right.
to the top, that kind of stuff. How do you
Right.
weight them?
So is there a mechanism out there? I don't know.
well, it's,
I mean, it's more of a, town-orientated, priority that we hear from, and we end up prioritizing.
Yep,
So I don't know if there's a book we can turn to and say.
it's a subjective process of creating objective
absolutely
goals.
is.
it is, it's true, it's true.
But if there was a way to plug everything in a computer and say, okay, here's your priorities, that'd be nice.
Well, there is always, I think that for me, there's kind of a methodology, and then to your point, there's subjective that changes what you come out with in the methodology, that kind of overweighs things. But for me, I guess maybe the obvious one is if there's a legal, like if we're breaking the law, we should do it. Or if there's a health concern or safety concern, for me, those go above any other nice to haves, you know what I mean?
right.
Maybe it's as simple as that,
It's all down to wants and needs.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at it, in what?
And dreams.
In dreams.
Yeah.
Needs, wants, and dreams.
But and it always comes back in our lap, but that's what we signed up for. But that's,
Sure. Because even if you say, okay, public safety outranks, fields or library.
Yeah.
Well, in a general sense, sure, but what if your public safety needs aren't as great? What if the building just isn't that old, and what if the other things are really that? It always comes back to subjective
Subjective,
calls.
yeah.
It's a call,
That's true.
case.
Yeah.
Our fields are terrible, and maybe our library's not quite so bad, as a for instance.
And for that one, the safety is of the children for me, playing on the,
We're not worried about stacks of books falling on them.
well, it doesn't seem like as an imminent doom as a rock hitting a kid's face.
Don't get me wrong, I am in favor of doing something there. But I agree with you, Madam Chair, we gotta come up with a process, which means devoting some time to it and figure out what we want with I mean, Keith, are you aware of like standard processes for boards to go through that, or is it just the age-old, you gotta make a, judgment call?
MMA, everything like that?
Well, there's, depending upon how much time you want to spend on it, really. It's, in Westford, they do retreats at Kimball's, where I guess we might as well get use out of it if the effluent's going to be disposed of in Littleton. Anyway, so. But, I mean,
We don't have that kind of.
we could certainly do, there are certainly,
Mark, you're welcome, we need somebody here.
I guess I'm in the wrong room.
That's okay, you can sit up
Yeah,
here.
you're up in what, 307, I think?
307.
We stole your room.
Thanks for the room. There's certainly
Let's get back to the.
things that you can do. Huh? Yeah, Kimball's? What's that?
He liked that idea, they got Jim's attention.
Okay, just throwing it out there, because it is tough, and if we just had, I don't know.
But, no, I mean, I would welcome Keith, giving it some thought as to, how best to do it. At the end, I accept that at the end of the day, it's a judgment call,
Yeah,
but
that
being able to have a process to point to say, that this is the process we went through, in coming up with how we vetted these things, Because it isn't, it's gonna have to have all the variables in play where you aren't necessarily saying no to something, but no, we can't do it now, but we
No,
can do it
but
2
later,
years from
right.
now. Those sort of things have to all be.
One thing that comes to mind, and I haven't seen the release yet, but I had a conversation with Sean Cronin, who's the Deputy Commissioner in charge of the Community Compact Cabinet Program. And and he had indicated a couple of months ago that there was going to be a new round of Community Compact funding. And it may be something that we could, either through a program that the state agency has or some funding that we could get through that, we could undertake a program that could help.
I'm not
Help us
opposed to
deal
that
with
long-term, but we're gonna have to deal with this
Yeah.
sooner than that, though,
Yeah.
too.
Yes, now.
I don't think there's any mechanism you can come up with, though. And I'm thinking over here, you mentioned what you really need, but then some of those needs can't happen because they can't fit in our budget without raising taxes, so.
But that's a criteria right there. It doesn't impact taxpayers, is a criteria. And we
Something-
have these things in our head,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think. It's just,
And you can tell groups, I mean, at the end of the day, those that get under the wire and, funded under the budget, obviously have a different fate than those that are left to go out to the voters.
One of the best processes that I've ever seen done, though, in taking a very complicated project, cutting it down into manageable pieces that affected the whole community. We, in Provincetown, we hired an outside facilitator, guy who had done a lot of work, and he simplified it. It was the point at which the sewer project there, and they're now in phase 4 of their sewer, but it had been in the hands of the Board of Health. And then the Board of Health said, oh, we need a sewer, and then lobbed it over to the Selectmen, and the Selectmen just received it, and in order to be able to just make it manageable, hired an outside facilitator, you brought everyone in the room that you needed, and you just worked through what the issues were until you left with your plan. It took, several meetings. Actually, in that case, it took, we continued to use the guy over a number of years as we went from one phase to another. But nevertheless, the breakthrough was to have an outside facilitator and this guy had a very calm approach, which worked, but especially where, if, for example, we're trying to figure out what's the fair way to do all the things that groups in town, boards want to be done, and that actually require some discipline imposed on it if we want to achieve the goal of not driving taxes up to, where no one's left in town to pay them. It might be well for us to have a process of an outside facilitator to come in and work through. I don't know, it strikes me that it's everyone has authority here. It's a very, unlike my situation in Provincetown, it was only the Board of Selectmen I had to deal with because they were practically the only elected board. Everyone else was appointed and was the chief policy setting goal. Here you've got a lot of, you're sharing the authority with other elected boards and others who have their missions, and that you need to come to a consensus of what makes sense. I mean, in a way, what we've achieved with the financial policies by having the Selectmen, the School Committee, and Finance Committee agree on the set of rules and then carrying them out, I mean, that's been, and that's taken years, but that's been the way that we then manage a process and understand what the rules are for doing a budget. Here, I think we're, you know, especially with some of our bigger projects, it's, we don't have buy-in yet from all the participants.
Right, but, following up on that, I think, I'll mention again, I think one area where we have got it right, in addition to the policies, was, and I think Bonnie kind of took the lead on this, was getting, the capital part of the budget program. That's coming from several different places, and we're balancing everything out, asking the schools for their list, and then nobody, at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe Jimmy could say otherwise, but I think everybody seems to feel they have had a chance to prioritize their own capital goals, and everybody gets a little piece of the pie. I'm looking for that kind of, approach here, and definitely looking to get, not for us to do it exclusively, but to solicit input from Permanent Municipal Building Committee, or the Finance Committee, and all those, and of course, all the boards that run programs, they'll, their advocacy positions too, but, I don't know.
Well, I think, take a look at the way we did the overlay districting and how well that worked. And the engagement we had with not only all the boards,
Yeah.
but the public. I think if we take that strategy and apply it to this objective, I know we're a little off track because you were talking about prioritization, but I think it worked well.
Yeah.
And that was a huge undertaking.
And in that case, we did have an outside facilitator, if you
Right.
will, in the person of the staff, the MAPC staff that we got through.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to
Yeah,
that, I'd like to see a little bit more about, how that would work, because, sometimes those things can take a life of their own too, and if we're the ones that, at the end of the day, we'll have to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more that, it's more that you need someone to help manage the process, manage the public input, and to do that part well, and to just make sure from one meeting to the next, the issues that come up get addressed, so that you then have them and can make progress, instead of each time you convene,
A whole new set.
it's a whole,
And that's a perfect segue. I'll tell you, I only really want to make one key point here tonight, again, Madam Chair, and right off of what Keith said, that the process, I think, is our biggest thing. I don't think we're not having any big argument over the list of things to do. I'm in complete agreement with everything you guys have put forward, and mostly it's like, well, we have these goals, why aren't they getting done as quick? And all we have to do is look at our Monday schedules generally to see why. We get our time eaten up by the other responsibilities, the things we have to do, not necessarily the things we want to do. And, I'm new to this board, and I got to try to say this without making it sound critical, because it's not. But those items that are on the list that by their nature directly involve Keith, and he shows up for work every day, they're gonna get done. The ones that we're tasked with are the ones that tend to drift. Obviously, your committee's putting the lie to that.
Oh, no, I'm not.
But that's a problem where, some of the issues that the part-time board members have to follow up on are the ones that tend to lag, fall behind, et cetera. I think that, anyway.
So to that point, one of the overriding things, he's starting. Windows. One of the things that I had going throughout this is, one of the reasons some stuff doesn't get done is there's no who attached to it.
Right.
Nobody's
Yeah,
accountable.
yeah.
We're all accountable.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's no individual accountable.
Right.
So one of the things that as I was going through it, I think it was under economic development, I put down that we should have a subcommittee, or at least one representative from the Board of Selectmen,
Right.
or a subcommittee of a couple of us,
Yeah.
short of a quorum.
Right.
So that we're able to come back to this board and report out. And
Yes.
that's where it kind of came up, and I said, well, this is kind of true of every single one of these.
Right, I agree with that.
Strategic champions.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the downside of that
Not
is,
that
you
I'm
know.
looking to go to more meetings, but.
No,
No,
and you don't want to start establishing turf, this is yours, this is mine, you know. But there's great value in shame. If I show up on a Monday night knowing that the four of you are gonna turn and say, so where are we at this, Paul? Like, I better make sure I've done something on it, you know, and hopefully that'll work right down the line. Accountability.
Yeah.
And that, so I want to come back to that, but also, we talked about checking in regularly on how we're doing in progress, and so we got to think about how we might want to do that. Every meeting, do we check in on each one, or do we pick one per meeting and schedule them?
Create a
And then that
structure.
strategic person could give that update at that time.
Or do we do it by month and just have,
One a month
maybe
or
make an agenda item and go through every one of the things real quickly?
Member input.
Yep.
Where do we stand on this? Where do we stand on this? Was this done? Was that done? Because I agree 100% because we get so involved with everything and that this topic that we talked about 6 months ago that somebody else brings up when I see them someplace, well, you know, we talked about that 6 months ago, nothing's been done. Yeah, it hasn't been done. Because
I agree, yeah, but I think there's no harm in having some element of the goals implementation week, you know, on every agenda. You know, where we at on that? Any updates? I mean, if you put it off month to month, then you run the risk of, you know,
It gets lost.
it gets lost again, you know.
We've had this conversation
Right.
before.
Oh, yeah, I know,
We've talked about, hey, let's get our department heads in once a month, let's hear an
Yeah, yeah.
update, get a briefing, and that fell by the wayside. The goals, it was the same way. Okay, we have this list of goals, let's, how we gonna handle it?
Even if the attack on the goals ought to be, okay, by our next meeting, what are the next steps we need to accomplish in the goals and who's responsible for it? Keith's gonna do this, Melissa's gonna do this, Paul's gonna do this, so that by the next meeting, we'll check, okay, this is what we agreed on, right? And then by the next meeting, it's like, well, I didn't get it done, or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
So,
It'll make it happen a lot better than
Yeah,
otherwise.
for sure.
I think,
hiding under the table.
Okay,
so, I just think that we need to,
Assign people, yeah.
yeah.
The other way to do it would be if you did make assignments and then just have a regular set of quarterly updates. Because my fear is that even if you put it on a regular agenda, you know we're gonna get to it at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Right.
After, you know, something else came in, we will have spent 2 hours on just fill in the blank.
And that's a great point too, is the structure of our agendas, you know? It just, they fill up quick and, you know, the prioritization of them and where it fits. Perfect example was Monday night,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
now we're here.
Do we hit this first and then roll into the project? So-
Right.
I don't want to pick on them except that they were here, but we spent a great amount of time helping out, you know, there's a public benefit involved, you know, private landowners work through a problem. You know, not even landowners, prospective landowners, it's like, okay, that's great, I'm glad we maybe came up with a positive solution, but is that, you know,
Yeah,
should we be spending a quarter of our time at a meeting doing that?
yeah.
I like the idea of the quarterly thing, because the other risk we run, if we all get assigned 2 of these, is 10. Nature of the beast, we're gonna, I'll throw myself under the bus, we're gonna get to a point where it's
Burnout.
Friday night, and I know I've got a report on Monday, oh man, so I'm just burning up the phones, trying to get an update and trying to figure out where, you know, just so I can not be shamed.
Right.
But so, you know, it's just, because we are so busy with.
Well, it's the yin and the yang. I mean, you're absolutely right, everything you say, but if it goes quarterly, then it's gonna be the Friday night of that, of that quarterly meeting when we're doing it, you know?
Perhaps.
There's gotta be a happy middle ground there somehow.
These goals
Yeah.
are pretty hefty.
Oh, of course they are, yeah.
Pretty hefty. And to think that, you know, the time involved, the people involved, it's gonna be, really overwhelming, I think.
I think, Jim, because that's true, the very next, the other important part of process is, okay, let's break them down into action items, and then what are the ones we have to do first?
Yeah.
What are the ones that have, you know, we want to try to do something before town meeting in the fall? And then what are the ones that we're gonna plan on working on through the winter so that it's ready for, you know, the annual town meeting next year, or whatever? Which ones don't have a, you know, a tie into one of those things?
That makes more sense
Yeah.
to me than saying, all right, this one this month, you got it.
Yeah, it's just, but it's still a process of breaking them down.
It is.
I mean, you go back to the old acronym, SMART goals, right?
Yeah.
So the T in SMART is time. You know, they have
Right.
some time sensitivity to it, and accountability is in there, measurable.
Yeah.
But I think that if we kind of loosely at least follow the acronym, we can, I think, better manage each of these. And if any one of us takes action on, if we don't necessarily assign a subcommittee or an individual, if any one of us takes some action on economic development marketing plan, just picking that one, because that's the one I wrote subcommittee on.
Right.
Maybe right then and there, we draft an email to Keith as a summary or something like that, just to get it out. Not looking for any input back, because we'd be violating open meeting laws, but just to send out a summary saying, hey, I spoke with X, Y, and Z, and this is what came of it, just so that everybody's kind of abreast of the situation and up to speed.
But maybe not even stopping there, Chuck, for all of these general topic areas, that exercise of identifying what the next steps are, maybe we can kind of sort that out tonight, assign it, so the next time we sit down to discuss this topic, we can, agree on what the next steps are. As you say, write a memo, file it into Keith. Keith can coordinate it all together if we just kind of divvy it up. I'm assuming the logical thing is if you propose something, then you can, be the person to suggest what the steps are. I don't really, I don't care. I'll take someone at any topic, but we need to get to that stage of,
Action.
yeah, what the next steps are in any given thing. And if there are things like, well, that's a good idea, but that one can wait. This is one that has to be done in September because November's coming up and we want it on the warrant. Those kind of things.
Well, I think that as a practical matter, that if you had broad goals that you adopt tonight and then assign people, that the specific, and then we go through each one, we meet the group that, myself, whichever members are assigned, whichever staff we need to pull off. It's then, through those subsequent discussions, it's more likely that we'll be able to come back to the board with the program plan. Or,
Sounds perfect.
Okay, given this goal, what is it that we're going to do in, between now and town meeting?
I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Because my fear is that if we can't do that here tonight, and even if we did want to stay all night, that
We don't.
yeah, the sun's still out. But I think that the goal setting is broad, and then it's the action plan part that makes the goal that's the step that we haven't normally done. So step one, goals, broad, and I'd say, in fact, even some of the language that I've got here is probably too specific in goals, but we could come back.
Put another column in, right?
Yeah, put another column over, right, well, what are the action plan to do certain things? Some of them get at it, that, for example, on the master plan update, submitting the Green Communities application in March, okay, that's the master plan itself for May town meeting, but there's not specific things in here of what
Right.
would we do for housing or for prioritizing open space.
But that
So-
process you just described, I think is right. If we accept ownership for certain topics and then meet with you and other staff people individually in between meetings,
Yeah,
come up with those
And then come back,
lists.
report to the whole, yeah.
I like that.
I think that would get us better to the place where we're of a common understanding of what steps are needed to achieve the goals or whatever we can achieve between now and May.
So is there a need to go through each specific goal that we have here, or the chart that you've made up, or are we in agreement with what has been drawn up?
Well, let's see. We already split off this common sewer from the economic development, right? And we kind of rephrased the master plan to be something with a
Yeah,
little more.
added housing, open space, green communities.
Now, when you take out, if you took out, say, for instance, the senior space needs from the Elder Human Services, is there any specific topic for Elder Human Services that we need to be addressing? Well, oh yeah, two people added opioid, Melissa. and
Yeah, under
Jim.
public safety, I've got
Oh,
develop.
you've got that under public safety?
Yeah, develop
Okay, yep.
opioid,
All right.
Narcan, public
So,
safety.
so maybe the
citizens.
Elder Human Service, no offense to them, but if they're being, if that, their main topic is being covered under, facilities, then do we need a redundancy in
Well,
areas?
I don't think it hurts, especially if you're that group looking at what is this
Right.
board doing to help them. So in fact, we're gonna make a good step towards that at our next meeting.
But now we're up to 11 topics. I was hoping to get down to that nice neat 10 you had a minute ago. 'Cause
Yeah.
then,
Where do we have the senior space needs?
it's under Elder and
It's
Human
under
Service.
Elder and Human Services. It's one of the bullets. Yeah.
But we're also
Second column,
proposing to add a number 10 of what, facilities?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and under town facilities, we could move fire station down there, because it's right now in public safety.
Okay, well, how about, if you look at something like the road improvement plan, that's kind of underway, right? Is there anything different we're doing there, or are we just enacting?
You just did it.
Right.
So I want to keep it in there so we can put a check mark next to it. So that's one.
It's gratifying.
Oh, all right.
And, it's,
Can't we have a ceremony for retiring a topic because it's been accomplished?
Burning the
bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
right.
that one never gets retired, though.
will it ever get retired?
No, but it doesn't, it's not like something that requires our attention right now.
like
It's
Brett
working, right? I don't know. I mean, look, if you get a particular reason to keep it on there, fine, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of action items that the board needs to be involved in on that
Yeah,
topic.
I'll take it.
Oh, and you want to know why? Jim's the perfect person to do it, because the main outstanding issue on roads is how should we best pay for water?
Water, they,
So, in fact, I'd recommend that on the roadway one, that we look at, that we add something specific about developing, the Selectmen and the Light and Water Board, developing, jointly developing a funding strategy for water main improvements.
Not only a funding strategy, but get the input of the water department. I used this example last night. If they have, I'm gonna say Fletcher Lane, because we know that's on the bottom of the list, right, priority-wise, but Littleton Water says, look at that, that's absolute critical right now for water main. We need to do water main, and I'm just using this as an example.
Yeah.
It's an example. So, that will change our priority based on what they're saying, and then we can say, all right, now the two commissions and board meets, let's reprioritize Fletcher Lane. So, it's gotta, and then we can talk about funding sources, and talk about.
Maybe we just say including water infrastructure needs in that goal.
Yeah.
I've got a suggestion which doesn't delete anything, it combines two of them, because neither one of them are gonna require any board effort, and they're already on there. We have one spot for road improvement plan, complete streets, we have another spot for transportation, commuter rail, crosstown connect. Why not just transportation issues?
There you go.
Well, I would say that the transportation ones end up being all, we're addressing all of those on a regional basis with
Right.
with the other towns. I mean, you can put them in for, as far as labeling goes, it's fine with me if you wanted to merge them, but,
I mean,
Is your reasoning just so we have 10? Are you trying to narrow
that's
it down?
one. The other one is, you're looking here, I'm looking for the things that we need to do.
Action.
Those are two topics where we want them to happen, but they don't require us to really do anything.
Yep.
That's kind of, Keith
well, they will.
owns
I mean,
them.
well, there are a number of them that ultimately come back to you,
Yeah.
what we've, it was the community compact, which this board did, that led to a lot of the things that we were able to get from state government. The last mile solutions, there will be some policy decisions that the selectmen need to make if we're adding service, and on that, just just a,
But you'll bring those to the board.
yeah, I'll bring those to
I guess
you,
I'm
yeah.
looking more to focus on the things that we need to do to initiate things that aren't
Yeah.
gonna happen unless we target them.
I
And I
keep-
don't mind including other things in there because they are important, but, I have no doubt that the things you're in charge of, you're going to get done, or make sure that we get done.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't need to mess around with the numbers too much, I don't wanna hold us here too long, maybe Keith can give some thought to tinkering with this thing, or do we need a vote on it?
Well, what we're doing is to get out of the room tonight, we're just looking to come up with the preliminary list that we would publish, and it'd be the subject for a public hearing that is held on August 22nd.
Right.
So, I mean, there's some time, there's some ability to edit what you do, but it would be helpful to walk out of the room with.
Right.
With, whatever
Assignments.
you think the list is.
Not even assignments, I don't think.
Yeah, even
Well,
even
just
for the
show-
well,
Because
even
let's
for the.
listen to what the public have to
Right.
say, and then we can do the same assignments based on that.
But once again, we're letting time slip on items that are gonna require some action. so-
We don't have any,
If there's some stuff we need to act on right now, we can
Okay.
leave it tonight saying, okay, number 3 and number 4, you and I are gonna work on
right,
it, you know,
all right.
it doesn't necessarily have to wait until we bless it.
I'm glad they're working on it down there.
yeah, I like that.
Well, I mean, I'm delated to hear, what, Jimmy,
Example.
if the light and water department is ready to go on the economic, the committee's just been kind of and I'm on it, has been in kind of hold pattern, waiting for something like that to jump on, so I'd like to say, yeah, I'll run in and, work with the committee and you, I guess,
Yep.
on that. On another topic that we, have it on our list, the sewer thing, I mean, at a bare minimum, can we get, Megan Ford back in here and maybe track down what's on record from the Board of Health and the Light and Water Department?
That one, I think we need to definitely have at least 2 selectmen on it,
Sure.
and get that group together independently of this board, and really get into the nitty-gritty of the feasibility study, and then come up with a plan of action.
Right.
And I'll defer back to what Keith said about having that independent voice come in to say, okay, you had a meeting, you had a feasibility study, here's the 2 board of selectmen, what's this new committee gonna look like? And get it together, get a quorum, and just go out and get that plan of action. We need the plan of action before we can do a strategic plan, whatever you wanna call it.
Well, then I agree with all that, or some variation of that, but it comes down to what board members are gonna take it up to,
Right.
be on the phone with Keith and whoever else to, talk about it between now and our next meeting.
I'm okay with the sewer. And I'm looking at you to,
Yeah, I mean,
If you want
To
to,
get
yeah,
on with me.
to make, you don't have to make all the assignments tonight.
right.
no, I know, but,
But if that's something we wanna move
I feel
forward.
that's kinda in your wheelhouse.
Well, that's, I don't want to, I'm associated with it, and I'm gonna support it, but I don't have to be the other person on it unless the board
Okay.
says, fine, I want to get everybody eventually advocating for it publicly.
Agreed.
But if you like me to work with you on that, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
He said that with such enthusiasm.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, yes,
You
yes,
said yes.
He
He responded in the affirmative.
As he turned his head.
Can't wait.
It could be, if it's that important an issue, then maybe you and the chair ought to work on it,
Which I'm happy to as well, but I do think you're a good voice for that one also, so. What,
Voice or lightning rod, maybe not,
So,
I'm open to that.
we're all the same, we're all in the same seat,
Yeah.
you know?
I will say, during the campaign, I
Yeah.
was very open about supporting it and didn't catch much flack for it. That's why I'm pretty bullish on it. I think, there's some people that are passionately against it, but I think a lot of people are open-minded to it. And that's, we'll find out.
A lot of people just don't want to get into all the specifics, but some
Right.
people just want the real facts and the real numbers and the whole thing.
Yeah. Right.
And they were given so many different things from different people that no one knew what the actual cost
hearsay.
was.
So.
Well, even our own, we were putting out so much information, it was like too much. You can't pick out, our own process of doling out information and explaining it to people. It's the burden's on us to make sure people understand it.
I'm also interested in learning more about that, but if you guys are both comfortable with being the 2 guys, I'm completely okay with that as well, so I'm sure I'm sure there will be others that will.
Yeah.
So there's one thing we can do, you can start action on before we go through all the goals, I suppose, if need be.
Start that strategy process.
I know, Paul, you were saying quite often, you know, we
If
wanna,
you're- if
don't wanna
you're-
wait on certain
I know,
topics, this is
right,
one of them.
Right. Yeah, and I'd like to think that by the 22nd, we could have some sort of agenda topic that night to, you know, to bring it back to life. And maybe we'll find out that there's more issues than it'll take longer because of X, Y, and Z, or maybe we won't, but whatever. Let's get an update of where we're at, where we left things.
Okay.
And if you're interested in it, Chuck, dive in,
Yeah.
Well, you work schedule, all that kind of stuff.
It's, if you want to, Chuck, go ahead.
I'm on vacation schedule with Jim.
Hey, just because I'm on
Is
vacation
your
right
car the one
now.
that's running out of the parking lot, by the way? Headed north?
With the flashes
Let me
on.
get that for you.
Whoops. Oh, are you looking for the planning board?
I am,
They're on the third floor tonight. We moved them.
but the agenda said 103.
It's-
They lied.
Well, the selectmen are in.
What's the topic, though? Maybe we wanna be,
Yeah.
Oh, it's just an A and R, it's not really a big.
Oh,
deal.
What's your address?
Well, we could vote on it, but it
Right.
wouldn't get to anything. so.
Is it 61A?
So 307.
3007.
Yeah, just think, parking spaces and affordable housing.
Are the fields in here somewhere? The athletic fields?
Michael and Matthew?
No, we're not. They find their own way in here. They don't need to be on any list.
In town facilities, athletic field
Okay,
needs.
right, all right.
Number 10 and a half.
Yeah. So that is another,
I've got that up to,
because, what we talked about the other night, you got, the AFRAC committee is.
Focus on alumni.
Right, and we need to complement what you're doing with another effort. That's another thing that happens, the need, between now and town meeting,
think so.
meeting with the finance team, getting everybody comfortable on and meeting with Park and Rec schools, getting a global picture, Jimmy, what's our
Right.
status, what are our needs? Maybe we can trade interests. I'll volunteer on that one, since some of it's, financial things,
Okay.
so what does that involve, facilities? Keith, I'm accepting.
yeah, it was on facilities.
Yeah. Unless you want to grab that, Joe, well, we could do, 2
I
each or
think-
something.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you may want, and if you're gonna assign them all tonight, or you're gonna just adopt the goals tonight, and then between now and our next meeting.
I think what Paul
figure
was
out-
focusing on was a couple of things that we need to take action on.
Yeah, sooner rather than,
Yeah.
So
Adopt goals tonight and get
a
that.
couple of
we
assignments.
can work out a couple of assignments, yeah.
I know when it gets to senior space, I'd want to be involved in that, too.
Right,
Yeah.
picking out a room for yourself, that sort of thing.
This is two meetings in a row.
I think you got a jab into me earlier, so.
So for the sewer, it's Paul and
Nope, I gave that over to Chuck and
I
Jim.
think Jim gave
Chuck
it over
and
to me.
Jim, okay.
Did you give it over to me? Or what do you- It doesn't matter. What do you think?
Okay. You got a coin in your pocket?
Just glad to see you.
Yeah.
See if you lose,
You can have it.
All right, I'm gonna jump in.
you jump in the sewer.
Hot County,
Chuck with the sewer,
is that good or bad?
senior,
I don't know.
your space needs?
Yep.
Okay, your first assignment will be, the Council on Aging and the Friends are meeting jointly on Monday, this Monday, at 1:30, to discuss that topic, to prepare for the meeting. So the August 8th at 1:30, I said I would be there.
Yeah, well,
There's your representative right there.
no, if I don't have something at work, then I want to be
Yeah,
there.
okay.
I will be in Maine.
Just if Joe was looking at the senior space needs, and I'm just
Right.
saying, I've got.
Is that upstairs?
I've got an action item, yeah, 307,
August 8th?
August 8th at 1:30 PM. Because the COA meets during the day. So, okay, so sewer, senior, did I hear?
So I think Paul and I are
Fields
gonna
being
share
something?
fields and sewers.
No,
No?
were we? I thought you were
What?
the sewers.
No, I gave it to Chuck.
Oh, okay, so you want the two of us, you're out. I got you, fine.
Okay.
All right.
Chuck and Paul
Are you gonna do anything, Jim?
on the
Yes,
sewer,
yes,
Chuck and Paul on the fields.
So, yet to be determined.
You don't have to make all the
Always is.
assignments
No,
tonight.
that's true.
You can wait,
Yeah, it'll
know,
be good,
you
because
can-
when it gets down to end.
you can do them
Yeah,
after
yeah,
vacation.
yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Chairman, all this.
And I don't know how much is involved, but, well, economic development, Jim, how about, you know, I'm on that committee already, why don't you grab, since you're on light and water, and the
I
next
will-
step is that
I will absolutely
website
wanna do
thing.
that,
There you
yes.
go. I didn't want you to
okay.
do the walk of
Guess we are
shame
going
out of
for
here
science
without an
tonight.
assignment, you know? Madam Chair, you gonna be doing anything?
Yeah, all right, yeah, come on, you come right down the table.
Silence is
You
definite.
you insulted poor Mr. Knox, and you jumped on me, go ahead. Give it to the
There it
chair.
goes.
Well, with the fields, just to clarify, would that include looking, the work with the park and rec and the schools on?
Yeah, on the, kind of the finance
Yeah.
plan and the
Yeah,
overall
and the fields
needs,
maintenance
needs
and all that.
assessment. And it might have to be preliminary at this point, but we promised to come back to town meeting with some, you know, measure of addressing that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, though, because I know we said, and, you know, FinCom, and I know what your urging had said that should be looked at, so I'm just wondering, do we put that, I've got that up as an organizational goal, but I'm just wondering if we move it down to the town facilities one.
Probably, yeah.
Just cut and paste
Yeah,
that one out.
defer to
Take it
your-
out there.
yeah.
Athletic field needs, including reviewing the third-party agreement for fields maintenance.
I've got library, there you go. There's something.
There you go, that's right.
Gonna break
So you
that
get the
down
library
sometimes.
too?
Yeah. We'll take the library.
Just to separate, I mean, maybe it's worth distinguishing fields versus other facilities, because I hear you
Yeah.
volunteering for fields, but
That's a good point.
the other facilities are much,
Yes, we wouldn't necessarily
Broader.
have
Right.
everything under that one
Yep.
goal.
No,
Yeah.
town
And
facilities,
I don't know where it's appropriate.
yeah, I
so-
mean, as
Leave it
a
under
practical
town
matter,
facilities.
I don't think you're gonna need to adopt an entire goal if there are things in there, so.
We can divvy it up. I can take the rest. I don't know.
Well, everybody's got something to do between now and when we meet next, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's adopt the goals now.
Okay.
Jumping
You have a revised list, Keith, based on all the input? we
Yeah, I
gave you?
do, yeah, just, up on the big screen, I've been you probably can't see it there, I've been making edits as we go, so it would be to, if you wanted, yeah, so number one, master plan update, housing, open space, green communities implementation, the rest of them, the titles are the same, economic development, although added as a number three, Littleton Common Sewer Strategic Plan. Then number four, transportation commuter rail crosstown connect. Number five, roadway improvement plan, complete streets. 6, elder and human services needs. 7, public safety strategic plans. 8, organizational review.
Just go back to, like the public safety
Yeah, yeah.
strategic plans. We can independently, if somebody sees something they want to jump on out of those,
The
jump
opioid.
on. You know what I
But
mean?
like, I mean, if, and knowing that you two have both brought up the opioid thing, I would
Yeah,
expect you
yeah.
guys to take the lead on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
But just so, you know, as we're going through this,
Yeah.
then we hear the public input, and then we can really say, all right,
yeah.
who we gonna assign?
Yeah.
So I'll make a note of the opioid, that's Melissa and Jim.
Chuck, right? Was it you?
No, me.
Oh, was? Oh, okay.
I brought it up
At
one
the
of our
meeting,
meetings.
but you, oh, okay, got it.
And once I saw you had it on there, I didn't ask.
Okay, organizational review bylaws and regulations, long-range fiscal plan, and town
That's another
facilities.
good one. You know, we were on this, bylaw review, was a big thing, and we did a couple in a few years, and then kind of lapsed, and
Well, it was in place last year too, but I think we need to revive it.
we need to be able to say, okay, what are we gonna do this year?
Right.
You know, what bylaws are we gonna do?
Well, no, this is the financial ones, I think, is what Jim,
No, no, no,
oh, no,
no,
you're talking about the
no,
other
no,
bylaws? I'm
bylaws,
sorry.
general
All right, I
bylaws.
misunderstood you, sorry.
General bylaws. I mean, we've cleaned some up.
Right.
But it's kind of taken, it's on the goals, because it's a good thing to do. I think as we again, go through the assignment process? Let's
Yeah.
pick one.
Well, we're not gonna
You know,
do all
we don't
of
have
that
to do them
tonight,
all.
but
No,
I
no,
agree.
no.
I mean, there's some other
Pick
topics
one.
I haven't even spoken to yet that I'd kinda like to sink my teeth into too, but
Yeah.
not tonight.
Okay. Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
And then long-range fiscal plan, and then town facilities, and I lumped, put all the athletic field ones into one bullet, and then library location needs. The fire station is up,
It's up in pub safety.
up in public safety, yeah, fire station expansion.
This is part of our problem, right? We need to compare these things on,
We
one
can-
place. Or as you said earlier, to put it in a positive light, it's not a bad thing to have them in two different places.
Yeah, well, I'll put them
seniors-
in a second place, the fire,
So we started out with 10, we added 2, and we're at 11. What do
We eliminated
combine?
something.
Merged.
No, we started out with 9.
yeah, no, you started with 10.
We did?
Yeah, you had 9, then you had an unnumbered facilities at the end.
Facilities.
Yeah.
And then we added, so that was 10,
added
and
the,
then you added the
common
sewer,
sewer,
that's
right.
11, yeah,
Are you gonna include the senior center in there too, Keith, in that place?
sure. Senior, I'm gonna put senior space needs.
That's fine,
yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
Is this yours?
Yeah.
How did this magically appear? Oh, this is your own copy, okay, I thought you like.
Yeah, because you're,
You up?
No, at some point I'd kinda like to,
Peruse.
so are we good with this as our jumping off point?
Yeah, I'll move the list of proposed goals for the purposes of bringing them before a public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good, we will do that on August
22nd.
22nd at 7 PM.
Will you remind us, Keith, in an email of what we committed to in terms of
Yes, I
assignments?
will, yes, I will, and I will add this list of assignments at the end of the meeting summary.
Just in case, just to make sure we're all on the same page on
Go
that.
and,
Well, we know how that works.
I'll go and edit.
Just before we adjourn, I apologize I didn't get these out to all you guys. I ended up having some computer issues, and Keith, they are in your inbox now as far as the additions or edits that I had to the matrix. But one of the things that I put in under economic development is to collaborate with Chambers of Commerce, Rotary, the LBA, the EDC, network with other communities, find out what works, and, just try to, even some of the new commercial businesses that are coming to town, they've come from other communities.
Right.
Like the restaurants, and hey, what happened in those communities that you liked or didn't like? We can kind of pick their brain and network that way to try to find out some best demonstrated practices perhaps. Whether it's the process that they went through to get permitted, and there's opportunities for us to get some pretty good data.
Economic Development Committee did do a little bit of that a few years ago, but never got as far into it as you're suggesting, and that's a good idea.
I know another hot one that you mentioned, just verifying our site delight.
Sunny Delight, yeah.
Really focusing on that particular
Yeah, I
site.
did,
Well, we should be at a place where when we have a specific property that pops onto the list, we have a process in place, so
Yeah.
here, okay, here's,
hit it.
Get them
Yeah.
to these people and whatnot.
various people have a stake in it, or, have a role, and, blah, 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 we should have a thing ready to go.
I think the only other one that I wanted to just kind of throw at you guys was under roadway improvement. One of the things that came up at the master plan dinner at the middle school was sidewalks. So if we can somehow integrate sidewalks strategy or
Yeah.
funding sources.
Some of that, we, in fact, at our next meeting, we're bringing the Complete Streets prioritization plan, and it's a first cut at a 5-year plan. Our immediate goal, though, is actually to submit a $400,000 grant application by next month. And as it happens, Russell Street costs $380,000. $380,000.
Just for the sidewalking?
Just for sidewalk and other pedestrian improvements. But we thought it important to actually make sure that there is a sidewalk all the way from King Street to Great Road. And-
We need to start, and this goes into the bylaw piece, other communities, when somebody puts a subdivision in, we have a sidewalk fund.
Yeah.
You know, you have 1,000 feet of,
Frontage.
whatever it is, you gotta pay X amount for 1,000 feet of sidewalk, that money goes in, then. I'm sorry?
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere, exactly.
I actually thought we had that once.
I don't know, but.
Yeah, I
know-
just, with the point, we're hoping to do some economic development at the Common. It'd be nice for people to be able to walk,
Right.
to make Littleton a walking town, and, we don't have any, I don't think we have any rails, old defunct rails, like Atkins doing the rail trail to connect to
With-
Chelmsford.
With both the master plan process going on and the planning board as it currently constituted, it might be a good time to get that, sort of stuff formalized, because a lot of those deals were like case-by-case basis, and, that's
Where the
not
planning
good,
board
yeah,
needs
yeah.
to, the planning board really needs structure to be able to say, here's a town
Here's our
objective.
proposal, and here's our objective, yep. So,
Those are just a couple of things that weren't really, there was no cross-pollination. So I just wanted to throw those out there, just so that everybody's kind of got them on the radar.
you looking for a motion to adjourn, Madam Chair? So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very
Chairman, we
much.
keep you properly.